Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the witnesses for being here today, and thank you for continuing to work on this important issue. Protecting Americans' privacy rights is critical, and that has become even sharper in the focus of the COVID-19 crisis, where so much of our lives have moved online. The American people deserve strong privacy protections for their personal data, and Congress must work to act in establishing these protections. Last year, along with Senators Schatz, Klobuchar, and Markey, I introduced the Consumer Online Privacy Act. The bill is pretty straightforward. It provides foundational privacy rights to consumers, creates rules to prevent abuse of consumer data, and hold companies accountable with real enforcement measures. Unfortunately, other legislation throughout the legislative process, I think, has taken different approaches. These bills allow companies to maintain the status quo, burying important disclosure information in long contracts, hiding where consumer data is sold, and changing the use of consumer data without their consent. So obviously, I believe these loopholes are unacceptable. Most strikingly, these bills would actually weaken consumer rights around the country by preempting stronger state laws. Attorney General Becerra is with us today, and I appreciate him being able to join us, because this would have an impact on a broad preemption, I should say, would have an impact on 40 million Californians who are protected by your privacy law and the privacy protections in your state. So we need to resolve this issue, but we can't do so at the expense of states who have already taken action to protect the privacy of their citizens. Finally, we also know that individuals must have the right to their day in court when privacy is violated, even with the resources and expertise and enforcers like the FTC, many of you I know know these rules well, and attorney generals. We will never be able to fully police the thousands and thousands of companies collecting consumer data if you are the only cop on the beat. So I'd like to go further, but there are many issues that we're going to address here. I want to say that the legislation also needs to cover the complex issues of, health and safety standards and important issues. The Supreme Court discussion that we're now having, I think, will launch us into a very broad discussion of privacy rights and where they exist within the Constitution. To me, this is incredibly important. Just this recent court ruling that put at risk the little-known but vital important provision of the FTC Act 13B, which allows the FTC to go to court to obtain refunds and other redress for consumers, the $10 billion, for example, in the Volkswagen case. Without this provision, the core mission of the FTC would be crippled. So I think all of these issues and the important issues of privacy rights should and will have a fair discussion if we can have time to discuss them in this process. I believe the issue of how the government interferes in our own privacy rights, whether the government oversteps our privacy rights, is a major issue to be discussed by this body in the next month. I don't believe in some of the tactics that government has used to basically invade the privacy rights of individuals. And Mr. Chairman, next week, the minority will be introducing a report that we've been working on about the value of local journalism. I believe that the famous economist who said that markets need perfect information, we're talking about the fact that if markets are distorted by information, then that really cripples our economy. Well, I think local journalism in a COVID crisis is proving that it's valued information with the correct information on our local communities, and I think that this is something we need to take into consideration as we consider privacy laws and we consider these issues moving forward. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.